My rent in my first little store was on Washington Place between Washington Square Park and Broadway. $175 a month. When I moved to 8th Street, it jumped to $500. That was in 1971.
It's probably like 14,000.
It's insane. Yeah, it's hard to make money in fashion because there are a lot of, and one of the things are, the expenses to be creative and to have, a presentation, whether you're a designer or you have a shop, and you encounter, rents and so on. The margins are there. Increasingly, it gets more difficult these days. Actually, Laura, who owns Screaming Mimi's, came last night. She had to go back because her best season is Halloween, and she had to go back and unpack boxes, she told me. But she recently moved from Lafayette Street over to 14th Street West because the rent was like ridiculous, and there's no point. You can't, by the time you pay all your expenses, including your staff and your insurance and whatever, it gets really hard, particularly fashion. That's why I guess you have all these like box stores, excuse me.
So you mentioned that you left one of your early jobs because you didn't like the way the boss was handling the operating.
Yeah.
What would you say, what makes a good boss? You've been a boss for decades.
Yeah. I think what makes a good boss is what makes a lot of things. I think honesty is one. I think also that when your staff sees you working hard and caring, not only about the business, but also for the people, for the team, I think that makes a good boss. In the end, in a small business, it could be little, or it could be a little bigger, or whatever. The personal relationship, I think, is very important. And you kind of do see it today a lot with a lot of these industrial small companies like going out and the boss trying to keep the place open and keep their workers, with jobs. But you care for your business and you care for the team who help you make this business. I think that's what makes people who work your team respect you. I think you teach by example, not by lecture. That's basically, I don't know, the way I learned.
Were there aspects of the fashion industry that were challenging for you when you started because you're a woman, or do you think that the fashion industry is easier for women to excel in, or not?
First of all, I never thought of myself as a woman. I didn't think of myself as a man. I was a person. I didn't ever get that. I wasn't in that world because I'm a child. My mom was ahead of her time. She had her own business. So my reality wasn't, I had that reality where my family did, their own. I mean, mainly it was my uncles, but but my mom was kind of ahead of her time, and so I grew up in that atmosphere. And I never really, considered myself a woman, or, I wasn't into women's rights. I wasn't against it, but I didn't give my energy to it. I just did my thing, and that's why I say, I think people learn by example. If you do your thing, as a woman, as a man, whatever, But if you do your thing and you provide an example, I think people learn from example. So, and in my opinion, all industries favor the men. It's historical. Fashion industry, movie industry, techno, it's the deal. But, you know, you have to be a little smarter. And you have to love what you do, again. If you love what you do, you're going to do it better than the next guy. And that's going to show up. So that, I don't think that you segregate it by different industries. I mean, you know, maybe construction industry or something that requires a physical strength, but I don't go there. I don't see a man or a woman. I just, you know, I'm not, sometimes men are a little bit put off by me. I found that particularly in the film and TV world. I don't know why, because all I want to do is make things look gorgeous. But maybe because I'm direct and I'm straightforward, I don't know, maybe the misogynists are a little bit threatened by it. So once in a while I've come across a man or two who, you know, were just not going to accept me no matter what. But in general, no. And that's really good because it shows that both men and women are on an equal playing field, whatever it is. Once in a while you get a little weirdo come along, but.
So, how do you deal with those people, the weirdos?
You deal with them in different ways because even though they're misogynistic, it doesn't mean they're carbon copies of each other, and they come from different places. And some, I mean, I had one example, I'm not going to mention any names, where I basically quit the job and I never quit before because this person who is a comedian, and a lot of these men, they come from the comedy world. That's how they get out there, like, I don't know what, misery. Believe me, I've worked with about 4 of them, and 3 of 4, or I've worked with more, but that personality, a lot come out of the comedic world. And, you know, it was like, I don't need this aggravation in this particular instance. I'm here to enjoy myself, not to be tortured. So, and the director was a young kid who was weak, and this actor was very strong and was like taking over. And I'm like, okay, goodbye. No problem. But, but the answer really is, it's like, all these experiences are different, just like all positive and wonderful experiences are different. There are different reasons that they become positive, my first experience in film was like, I think around 1985, something like that. A friend and colleague of mine by the name of Candy Price, who was one of the leading department store window artists of the time, along with Bob Curry. She was consulting on a movie which starred Diane Lane, who was like, I don't know, 18 at the time or something. And she was, her role was she was a window artist, a window designer. So my friend Candy was creating all these windows. It was basically a psychodrama. It wasn't a fashion movie per se. And somebody was stalking her outside the windows when she was doing the windows at night kind of thing. And the director asked Candy if she could suggest someone to do the clothes, because Diane Lane's character was this young, fashionable girl, and she wanted somebody out of fashion and so on. So Candy, suggested me. I met the director. She hired me. I had no experience, but she was very supportive. She got make sure, like, whatever team is around you in this particular job, that I had somebody who, you know, sort of helped me up a bit, because I had no experience, you know. It's just technical things that you don't know, and you learn, but it's, you know, it's not that hard. You just have to know what it is and do it. It's not, it had nothing to do with the creative side, it's just the organizational side. So that was my first, and then from there, the producers liked my work, and that got me a second job with them out in LA, and there I met a producer, and you know, it just grew from there.
And we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Can you describe your process of how you create characters with clothing?
Okay. The character comes from the script. I read the script. It describes the character through their dialogue or different stage direction. So that's the beginning. Then an actor is casted. And I mean the actor, because that's extremely important. My relationship with the actor is the main relationship for me in this process. And I basically try to find the parallel lines between the character and the actor. And once I can isolate them and recognize and understand what these parallel lines are, I try to stay within the parallel lines, whether it's a body type or a taste level, you know, whatever the actor is messaging to me. And of course the script, and the actor is basically creating the character on the camera, in front of the camera. I just try to understand what that is and work within it. Because for me it's very important that an actor feels comfortable to create that camera. After all, that character, after all, she's in front or he's in front of the camera, and they can't be distracted by, oh, this isn't me, or this doesn't fit me, or I can't move around in this, or whatever. So it's my job as a support job for me, for the actor. Absolutely. And that's who I deal with mainly. You know, I jump around to the producer, the director, but you know, I'm closest with the actor.
Do you think that style can be learned, or do you think it's innate?
I don't think that they've discovered a gene for style. I don't think it's on the DNA. I think it's totally learned, like most things are learned. Now, let's just say a lot of things are learned, that they say, I was born gay. You weren't born gay. You learned to be gay somehow. I was born stylish. You learn it. You learn it by example. You see your eyes, you're a kid, you experience things, you begin to, you know, put it together. I mean, me, personally, I had 3 young aunts that were sisters of my mother. And they were, you know, let's say late teens, maybe 20. And my mom was working, had her business, and I was with my aunts and my grandmother a lot. And they were young women. And you know, they would drag me wherever. Times Square in those days, you would, these theaters, first there was a live floor show, and then the film, shopping. You know, I was with these young gals. One had, you know, dyed red hair, and there were all 3 different types. And so that was a really strong learning process for me about, you know, I don't know, style. I didn't know what style was, but you know, I experienced all this So it became, part of my mental file. What did I want to say? There was one question that I was asked once, and I had to really think about it, but I remember, like, what was your first stylish outfit or something like that? It was a question like that. And because there's a photo that I have of it somewhere along the line. When I was probably about 6, I think, I had this cowgirl outfit. And I was in love with this cowgirl outfit. And I wouldn't take it off. And it was a vest and a little skirt with a fringe, and cowboy boots, a hat, a gun with a holster. And I was like, this is me. So that's my first memory of something that I wore myself that became very, personal to my experience. How old are you? Are you 5, 6, 7? Secret? Oh, wait.
5.5.
5.5. I was about that age, yeah, something like that.
She doesn't have cowboy outfit yet.
Cowboy.
She's got the pink tutu.
Because all the girls, they do princess and tutus.
It's even more powerful now with
Oh my God.
Disney princess powers.
Princess power, yeah. Me, I was like cowboys and Indians.
I also heard that you admire ancient Egyptian leader Cleopatra.
Oh,
Can you talk about that and why?
Well, I'm often asked who is my style icon, and I always give the same answer, it's Cleopatra. And they go, really, why? And I'm like, think about what women from 2,000 years ago have any image whatsoever. And she was the queen, by the way, she was not Egyptian, she was Greek. She was the 13th dynasty of Ptolemy, who was Alexander the Great's general. And when he took over the Middle East, he put Ptolemy to rule over the Middle East. And Cleopatra was the 13th generation. And she, her father, her grandfather, they took her around. She was kind of trained for this job. I think it might have been her grandfather. She wasn't like a girly girl. She was out there, doing diplomacy with her grandfather. But she's a style icon because we have a visual memory, also thanks to Elizabeth Taylor, but for anyone interested in, history, they know that about the real Cleopatra. And she was a powerful woman, and she did what she had to do, right, wrong, or indifferent. She was there for basically Egypt, which she ruled over. And she's my style icon.
She was fierce.
Fierce.
Yes. Speaking of fierce, let's talk about Michelle Saunders.
Oh, yeah.
So, as most of you all know, Pat is here really because of Michelle Saunders. And they've been friends for decades, right? And I wanted to ask you about your relationship. How did you meet? What is the connection between the two of you that has created this lasting friendship?
Okay. Michelle can add to it, by the way. I love Michelle. Michelle and I met each other at the Paradise Garage on the dance floor, I believe. We were, regulars there. Those were the days when people danced and had fun. And the Paradise Garage would open up at what time, 4 in the morning when the bars closed?
No, midnight, but then really it started happening around 3 or 4, and then it lasted until noon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon the next day.
Yeah, you walk out and the sun would be shining. And you go, But anyway, we met there. And Michelle was involved with different musical groups, photography, many creative things. And she used to also come to my shop quite a bit. And we developed a relationship, a friendship, a little working together on different things. And, you know, I like Michelle's energy very much, and she's very different. I mean, like, last night people were like, look at Michelle, she's on the dance floor. Can you imagine? Look how she can dance. Oh my God, nobody could dance like her. So, you know, I respect Michelle for her athletic prowess. You know, she's a professional skier. Her son is like, can do anything on wheels. He can jump to the wall and flip himself over. That's all because his mother gave him the athletic, whatever. It's just a facet. It doesn't mean it's entirely you and you're 100% compensated. It's a facet in you, which is totally positive, and I found that very attractive in Michelle. Michelle, you want to say something?
Yes. So, I didn't expect to say anything, but I walked into Pat's store after actually the Paradise Garage party. The people who worked at her beautiful store went partying to the garage, and in the morning I was fascinated by the way they were dressed. I was doing a lot of things myself, but somehow when I saw this group, I thought I just gotta follow where they're going. So I followed them to 8th Street, to the store, and that was it. And then I lived there in the store for years, and I still do. This is the store. And I'm so glad I could bring the store on this vibe here. I always felt happy in Pat's store. I always felt young, and if I have this energy, I think it has a lot to do with the way I felt in the store. Very inspiring. Age doesn't matter. Looks do not really matter. It's how you feel and how you express yourself. And this is what I found in Pat's store. So I give her energy, but she's giving me a lot of energy to an inspiration. And I'm so glad she came here today.
Yeah, it was like after the club, back to work. Don't go home. You're in your club where you're working. The store's open. Get to work.
How are we doing on time? What time is it? Does anyone know?
10
10 to 2?
It's 1:52.
Okay. So in a few minutes, we are going to go down to the gallery for the opening of the Centennial She exhibition. But I wanted to see if anyone here has any questions for Pat.
You've done so many things. I'm curious, and still to this day, how do you keep up your energy level to do it all?
Well, you know, it's been years of practice. But to be perfectly honest with you, like the nightlife is greatly curtailed because, you know, by 10, 11 o'clock, I'm like, okay, I've had it. I can't go in a noisy place with crowded people or whatever. I just need a little peace and quiet. But in general, to keep up your energy, I think it's very important to be involved and interested. Otherwise, you kind of start to decay. And I think it's really important to, sometimes it might not be as comfortable as when you were young, but it's really important to push yourself and keep yourself active and stimulated, your brain, your body. Because people who retire early, there are different professions where you retire early, whatever, a lot of government ones, teachers, whatever. They get old fast. So I think you stay young because you stay in the race. You gotta stay in that race. And, I think it's kind of a myth. When I'm 60, I'm 65 and I'm gonna retire and I'm gonna take it easy. And, after whatever, 6 months, a year, it's boring. And it's not about making money or not making money. It's about being active, interacting with people, young people, old people, middle people, all kinds of people, and staying current. So I think that's what gives, I'm aware of that. And when I sold my store, you know, I immediately, I don't know, because I'm aware of it, I guess, or it wasn't a plan. I was like, okay, I have a few artists in my shop. Kyle, Stud Oven Kyle, Scooter LaForge. Who else was in the store at the time, guys?
Iris.
Of course, Iris, Bonner, these people.
Susan Pitt.
What?
Susan Pitt.
Oh, well, no, not so much. Susan was back in the 80s. There were a few that I resurrected from the past in my store, including, I don't know, not Jody Morlock, because she never had paintings in my store. She used to work in my store, but now she's part of the artists that I represent. But what was I trying to say? There was a point. Yeah, I mean, no, about the, yeah. So when I was selling my store, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do now? And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. But then I thought, I had a website, and rather than close it down, I had this segment of painted clothing. It was a small segment in my store, but it was doing very, very well because people wanted one of a kind, because, you know, fashion had become so monotonous and same, and stylists would come in and clients saying, you know, this is the only place I could come in here and find something that I haven't seen before. And it gave me the idea to continue my website, but to convert it to an art fashion, you know, online gallery. And that's how that happened. But, you know, I was into it. I wanted it. I wanted to do something, and that made sense to me based on my experience. I thought that, you know, and that I would enjoy it, which is really important. Staying energized is enjoying what you're doing. You want to get up in the morning and want to go and get to work and do whatever you do, not drag and like, ugh. I feel terrible for people like that, because we only have one life, and we owe it to ourselves to make it a happy one.
Are there any other questions?
As a young child, I used to destroy my clothing and paint on it, and we all have a hip relative, and I had a hip relative who said, you have to go to the store on 8th Street. And I must have been maybe 8, and I had my first trip to Patricia Field's, and I have to say it was life-changing. So when you said, oh, I just had a retail store, I didn't get cappuccino, you know, you either come in and you buy or you don't, well, I came in and my life was pretty much permanently changed. And suddenly I didn't feel alone. You know, there was no internet. There was, you know, I was just a person feeling like, am I the only person who sees things this way? And I realized no. And it was transformative, and I want to thank you for that. And which leads me to a two-pronged question for you. Today everybody says you must dress age appropriate. And I just want you to speak to that for a second. I know. Ding. And the other thing is, if there were 2 accessories that were the most important accessories, what would they be?
Okay, so that's
You can string that together any way you like.
what you said about coming into the store and feeling, oh, there are other people like me. I hear that all the time. And it's really great to have been a part of inspiring people and giving them a positive experience about themselves. My store was like a clubhouse in a way. So we didn't serve cappuccino, but you know, it was very picturesque, and it was fun, and it was creative, and people who were creative really got into it. You were 8 years old. A lot of times I would experience little kids going, with their mothers. Mommy, mommy, I want to go down there. I want to go down there. And the mothers would pull their kids away, you know. And the kids always loved the store because it was, you know, it's colorful and there's characters. It was like a circus. And the kids responded to it all the time. They loved it. The second part of your question was, I forget. Oh, yeah, that's bullshit. If you feel what you wear, you can wear it. There's no such thing. The fashion victims are the ones who wear age appropriate because they have eaten the line of crap. You know, when you walked in the door, I saw your great necklace and your boots and your clothing. You know, you looked like you were enjoying yourself with your life. That's what's important. And I didn't go, oh, that woman shouldn't be wearing blah, blah, blah. You carry it. If you feel it, you carry it. Michelle's a perfect example of that. She definitely has her own style. Michelle and I are contemporaries. I have my style, it's a different style. But we each carry our style because style is personal. And I would never wear something that was dictated to me to wear. That was age appropriate. What the hell does that mean? I think people learn by example. I was never really one to march in a parade or women's rides or something like that. I think it takes individuals and it takes a village. And this experience here in Catskill really underscored that idea for me. It was such a communal effort on the part of the people here that supported this event and on the part of the people who came to this event. And the people were talking and socializing and happy, and it was a wonderful, positive experience, better than any of the of the events that we have done around, and we've gone around the world, you know, in several places. Believe me, this is on the top. This is on the top of my hit list. Where I mean, the effort made by supporting local people, and then when the people came to the event, it was just wonderful. I'm so glad that I'm doing this. This is what you want to feel like. You want to feel happy. So I really thank you all for spending an hour with me, expound on my theories. And what we're gonna do the next, we're gonna go to the shooting. Cool.
Thank you.